Good afternoon, Jamaica. Thank you so much for joining us today, Wednesday, May 17th. I am your host, Veronica Chiskevich, for this edition of Consular Conversations live at the U.S. Embassy here in Kingston, Jamaica. My guest this afternoon is Andrew Cofton. He is a Foreign Service officer serving in the American Citizen Services section in the Consular section here in the Embassy. Welcome, Andrew. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Veronica.
So just a couple of announcements at the top, as usual. If you are tuning in on Facebook, thank you very much. We're also streaming on Twitter and Instagram. Please follow us at US Embassy JA. That is at US Embassy JA. Also, as usual, please note that we cannot and will not answer specific questions about your individual case or application in this very public forum. You're, of course, entitled to privacy about your own situation, and we don't have access to detailed case information during the program. If you do have detailed case-specific questions, there are a variety of email addresses you can write for American Citizen Services. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew. It's kingstonacs@state.gov.
That's correct.
Non-immigrant visa questions that are case-specific can be directed to kingstoNIV@state.gov. And if you have immigrant visa questions that are case-specific, please write kingstoNIV@state.gov. But for today, we're going to focus on a variety of American Citizen Services topics. Andrew will be talking a bit about passports, about travel, and so thank you so much for joining us again. Do you have anything at the top you'd like to mention?
Of course. So some of the most popular services that the ACS unit offers at the U.S. Embassy include passport applications, both for just born infants as well as the regular passport renewals, and the overseas equivalent of a birth certificate known as a consular report of birth abroad. The ACS unit has been steadily reducing the backlog for appointment slots and is happy to report that passport slots are now open beginning Friday, May 26th. And the soonest a consular report of birth abroad appointment can be booked is as soon as June 14th. So it's the second Wednesday of June.
Nice. That's really great. And so I'm just going to work off of that and pepper in a few announcements from our different sections down in the consular section. So thank you for that. Just a note from our non-immigrant visa section, high seasonal demand for temporary work visas has caused us to limit the intake of interview waiver renewal cases. It's a super popular program. I know thousands of you have sent in your passports to renew tourist visas through the mail, and you can expect longer wait times now as a result of sort of fluctuations in worker visa demand. If you have a genuine family emergency or a dire medical necessity, please use the expedite guidance provided on our appointment website to request an expedite of B1, B2, commonly known as visiting visa appointments. Also, visa applicants just want to remind you that visa fees have to be paid through the CAC system. That stands for Consular Electronic Application Center. You cannot pay a visa fee on pay.gov. But Andrew, what do you pay using pay.gov? What kind of fee?
You can pay the fees for U.S. passports on pay.gov, but please do make sure that if you're coming in to submit a passport application, that you do print out the receipt that you get when you do pay on pay.gov. The transaction ID is then verified by the adjudicating consular officer to ensure that fees are paid and the passport application can be adjudicated.
Okay, great. You passed your first test. So if you do mispay a visa fee using pay.gov, it can take up to 2 months to get a refund of that fee. So it's really important that if you're applying for a visa, you're using the CX system. Also, just a quick announcement from the immigrant visa section before we get into the questions this afternoon. The immigrant visa unit in which I work currently is scheduling more than 1,000 interviews per month. I was going to say per night. That sounds like a nightmare. But we still have a tremendous backlog, and we cannot predict when a particular visa case will be scheduled for interview. So if you're requesting an expedite of an immigrant visa case, please do that through the National Visa Center. Don't write the embassy here. If the request is approved, it'll be a few weeks before we can schedule you. Also, fiancé visas, or the K1 and K2 derivative classes, that's actually something that you schedule on your own through travel.state.gov. So also, another thing I wanted to mention is vaccination requirements, which recently have been in flux. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, has been working with the State Department to issue clear guidance about this. As it stands now, though, if you are applying for an immigrant visa and have any kinds of questions with regards to vaccination requirements, particularly the COVID vaccine, you must work with Andrews Memorial Hospital, that works with the CDC to work on that medical clearance. Officers interviewing at the window or the embassy cannot provide guidance with regards to the COVID vaccine at this time. So yes. All right. Andrew, first question. I have had a child in Jamaica. The other parent is a U.S. citizen. What do I do now? Tell me, what is the process for getting my child a U.S. passport?
So if the child was born in Jamaica, as I mentioned, the American Citizen Services Unit offers a service of issuance of a consular report of birth abroad. It is effectively the equivalent of a birth certificate for children born to U.S. citizens abroad. Now, if it depends a lot on who the U.S. citizen parent is, but depending on whether the parents were married and whether one or both are U.S. citizens, that will determine what documents need to be submitted in order for the adjudicating consular officer to be able to issue that consular report of birth abroad. More information can be found by visiting the U.S. Embassy's website and going to the American Citizen Services Unit subsection of the website. But once that consular report of birth abroad is issued, it can be used as the evidence of citizenship for the applicant child to then be issued a U.S. passport. I'll remind those who are listening that if there are two parents listed on the child's birth certificate, either the Jamaican birth certificate or a U.S. birth certificate, that both parents do need to be present. Or if one of the parents is not present to issue consent for the child's passport application, then a DS 3053 consent form needs to be submitted by the non-present parent and notarized. Please keep in mind that Jamaican justices of the peace and notaries are not acceptable. And so either the parent needs to have the document notarized by a public notary in the US, or come in here to the U.S. Embassy to have the DS 3053 form notarized here if the applying parent is back in the United States.
Okay. And speaking of notaries, it's not just that form, right? It's any kind of form that needs to be notarized, including the DS 3053.
Yes, and
Okay.
that was the form I just mentioned, but
Right.
beyond that, the policy still applies. The U.S. Embassy does not accept Jamaican notaries at this time.
All right, that's really good information. Okay, here is a question for you. I traveled to Jamaica and my passport was lost or stolen. What do I do now?
So it's very important to submit a DS-64 form. That is where you indicate whether the passport was lost or stolen. It would be ideal if a police report could be filed and that the receipt provided by the JCF be submitted in tandem with that DS-64 form. Now, if you've lost a passport and you can wait at least 2 weeks for a full validity passport to be issued, we ask that you submit a DS-11 form and indicate that you don't have any imminent travel. You would then be interviewed by the adjudicating consular officer, asked to submit all evidence of citizenship available and of ID, and then you would be given a receipt and a ticket to pay a mailing fee, and you would get your passport in the mail in about 2 weeks. However, if this is an emergency situation, you do have the right as a US citizen to apply for an emergency passport. You would need to submit a copy of the travel itinerary on which you will be traveling, and then a emergency passport, oftentimes limited to 1 year, sometimes less, will be issued, and we aim for that to be done on a same-day basis.
Wow, nice. And even the 2-week turnaround time for regular DS-11s, that's better than you're getting in the United States. So
That's correct.
that's pretty great. All right, here is another question for you, Andrew. I just naturalized in the United States as a US citizen. Congratulations. Does that mean I can travel to Jamaica as a US citizen, or should I travel on my Jamaican passport?
According to US federal law, once you are a US citizen, you need to travel in and out of the United States using valid US travel documents, which in this case would be either a US passport card or a US passport book. It is possible that you would be allowed to leave the US and enter Jamaica on your Jamaican passport, but your airline will not board you on the return flight back to the United States. Because we cannot guarantee that an emergency passport will be issued in time for your original itinerary, we do highly recommend that a US passport be applied for while you are still in the United States, and that if you already have a US passport, that you check the validity dates to ensure that it will still be valid for your return travel.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, here is another question. My child's birth certificate lists both parents, but I haven't been in touch with the other parent for many years. How do I get a new passport for them?
Dual parent consent is taken very seriously by the US State Department, and therefore the bar for issuing a passport without both parents' consent is set very high. Except for extremely extenuating circumstances, it is highly unlikely that a passport will be issued to the minor child unless the consent of both parents listed on the birth certificate is provided. Therefore, if the applying parent states that they're unable to be in contact with the non-present parent for an extended period of time, we do recommend that a court order be issued to grant sole custody to the applying parent. And with that court order, the adjudicating consular officer would be able to issue the passport then.
That makes sense. Yeah, I have children myself, and both mother and father have to sign those forms. So
I will note, however, that once the child is 16, only one parent needs to be present to sign with the child.
Okay, that is a good thing to remember. All right, well, 21st century, here's a question. Can I renew my passport online, or do I have to come to the embassy in person?
That all depends. If you have already been issued a full validity adult passport book, meaning the book is valid for 10 years, you are eligible to apply on a DS-82 application form, and you can just submit that at the US Embassy, and you don't need to come in person to be interviewed. However, your previous book needs to have been issued within 15 years of the application, and you need to not be requesting any changes. So you cannot, for example, suddenly have the new passport book printed at a new name if you're submitting the DS-82. However, if you are a minor who's never been issued an adult passport book, or you need to make any changes to your existing citizenship document, or your previous book was issued more than 15 years ago, you will need to apply on a DS-11 form, and that will require an interview with the receiving consular officer. I will make note that in order to make the process as smooth as possible, we do ask that applicants fill out the passport application forms online using a computer, so that there are less issues when the passport application is actually turned in at the U.S. Embassy.
Okay, lots of passport questions here. You already kind of covered this, but my child was born in Jamaica and I'm a U.S. citizen. How do I apply for a passport for them? What is the process to get from a child being born here to that child having a passport in his or her name?
So the good news is that you can apply for a consular report of birth abroad and a U.S. passport at the same time.
Okay, great.
And so once the consular report of birth abroad is issued, that can be used as the evidence of U.S. citizenship for the passport. Because oftentimes children born abroad are not immediately issued social security numbers, we do ask parents to sign an affidavit stating that their child has never been issued a social security number, and only then will we be able to accept a passport application for that child. At the same time, when parents come in, we provide them information as to how they can apply for a social security number through the Social Security Administration's office that is based in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic.
Interesting. All right. Okay, if you're just joining us, welcome. It's Consular Conversations live on Facebook. And just going to remind you again to please follow us on Twitter and Facebook at US Embassy JA. That's at US Embassy JA. I'm Veronica Chiskevich. This is Andrew Cofton. We're talking primarily ACS issues, but I'm going to pivot just for a moment because on May 30th, there will be an increase in non-immigrant visa processing fees. Specifically, the fees for visiting visas or for business or tourism, B1, B2 visas, is going to increase from $160 to $185. The fees for certain petition-based non-immigrant visas for temporary workers, particularly popular programs here like the H-2B and H-2A programs, but also I know it's going to sound like I'm saying the alphabet, but the L, O, P, Q, and R categories will increase from $190 to $205. And the fee for treaty traders, treaty investors, and treaty applicants in specialty occupations is going to increase from $205 to $315. And we will have some more messaging on those fee increases, but those will begin May 30th. And just wanted to put that out there since we have this platform today.
I actually have some ACS PSAs to make, if that's all right.
Do it.
So you did ask me how one applies for a passport if a child already has a consular report of birth abroad,
right,
or they may not yet. So by visiting the U.S. Embassy in Jamaica's website, you can go to the ACS unit subsection of the website. And for passports, you can book an appointment. The earliest passport appointment slot available today is on Friday, May 26th. So that's next Friday, actually. And applicants can book those appointments themselves online. However, if you have a child that needs a consular report of birth abroad, we ask that you email Kingston ACS at state.gov in order to engage with our ACS unit staff, which will explain if any documents that are needed are missing before they will book an appointment for you. The earliest consular report of birth abroad appointment available is the second Wednesday of June right now, and every Wednesday thereafter.
Wow, that's only a couple of weeks' time, so you're doing pretty well compared to some other sections.
Yes.
All right, I came down to Jamaica and I ran out of money. Can I get a loan from the U.S. Embassy?
We asked that American citizens that are in need of funds get in contact with friends and family in order to be able to fund their return travel to the United States. The American Citizen Services Unit at the U.S. Embassy can assist American citizens finding themselves in a destitute situation to contact friends and family abroad. And we ask that you contact us at kingstonACS@state.gov. We also advise travelers that Jamaica is currently under a level 3 travel advisory, which is that we request potential travelers to reconsider travel to the island due to high levels of crime at this time. The local police force does not have the resources available in order to investigate and prosecute any crimes that occur. And so it is advisable that U.S. citizens reconsider travel to the island. However, if you do travel, please enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. That can be found in travel.state.gov. And also note that beginning June 1st, this will be the start of hurricane season here in Jamaica and in the greater Caribbean region. So please make sure that you have a familiarity with an evacuation plan, and to also visit the ODPEM website. That's the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management here in Jamaica for further resources.
They have some great pamphlets and handouts, PDFs. I've been on that website. Yeah.
Yes, and I encourage my family to visit that website because you never know when a hurricane might come, and you always want to be prepared before disaster strikes. And the last PSA we have for travelers to the island is to be aware that firearms laws vary very much depending on which country you're in, and that in Jamaica, except for some very limited circumstances, firearms and ammunition are highly illegal and are prosecuted heavily. U.S. citizens that traveled to the island and are found to be in possession of firearms or ammunition, including bullets and bullet casings, are subject to prosecution under very heavy sentencing and potential fines. So we do ask that U.S. citizens that engage with firearms back home check their suitcases and any travel luggage prior to traveling here to make sure that they are not at risk of traveling here with those items.
Totally. Do not take for granted that what is legal in the States is legal in Jamaica, right? And make sure that you are the one packing your luggage, and make sure you know what's going in there and are not packing bullets or casings or guns. Good. All right, couple of other non-passport questions. I ran out of my medicine while visiting Jamaica. What should I do?
We do ask you to contact either your doctor back in the States or a local doctor here. That will be the most imminent and quick solution to your issue.
All right. How about this question about taxes? Is my child eligible for a U.S. tax credit?
The U.S. Embassy cannot comment or give advice on tax issues. Please visit www.irs.gov for resources in addressing any tax questions.
All right. Okay. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And again, follow the U.S. Embassy at U.S. Embassy JA. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your super busy afternoon. We're all busy trying to process visas and passports and CRIBAs and all of those documents that are necessary for life. We're going to sign off. I wish you all a very, very pleasant afternoon. There will be another Consular Conversations Live next month in June. Stay tuned on Facebook. We'll announce who the guest is and the date as soon as we are able to. Thanks again, Andrew, and may you all have a great evening. Bye.